Do you want to know how to change your consciousness in a way that can be mathematically modeled and bring you into a state that can only be described as lossless presence? High fidelity embodiment. And what if I told you that that very signal, that lossless presence, rhythmically entrained into your oscillatory systems, could change reality itself? You know how people say, like, we're all one mind? We all come from the same place. What does that actually mean in terms of our consciousness? Why do we always feel like we're like a little bit behind the wave, right? Why does it feel like we're lonely islands unto ourselves that can never truly touch reality? Could it be that there's almost like a setting, like our brain is in safe mode in a way? That type of thing where it's like we are unable to fully entrain, to fully touch the true happening of reality, the true being of reality. We can't become the rhythm if we're constantly staring at the shadows on the wall of Plato's cave. And maybe you've taken philosophy class, maybe you've approached Plato's cave in your own way, but let me define it mechanistically. Plato said we don't experience the world for what it is, and that when you go outside the cave, that sunshine is what the true direct experience of reality is. And so then you're like, well, wait a second, Ember, what are you saying? Like, we have like almost like strange glasses over our eyes, or strange, I know my nails are all chipped, strange glasses over our eyes, or like stained glass, you can say. It's almost like we're staring at reality through stained glass. And you know what stained glass does, right? It like diffracts the light down like different ways, and maybe we consider it beautiful, right? Symbolic recursion can be beautiful. There's a lot of beauty into that Mandelbrot fractal type, infinite zoom fractal version of, well, what's the next thing? What's the next way we can symbolically package that? What's the next way we can symbolically package that? And you can feel it. If reality is a rhythmic process, if oscillatory mechanics show us that, from the cosmic scale of galaxies spiraling to even the Planck scale, the vibratory Planck scale, it's all phase dynamics of an oscillatory system at every scale. And the real secret, the real cheat code is love. Love, that shared place, not the poem of love, not the narrative of love, but that least energetically dense way to organize a self-similar system across differences. That place we all forgot, that song we all forgot, that tone that brings it together in that place of harmony, collective truth, the place where embodied truth intersects with collective truth. In other words, people say be here now, and people say, get rid of your ego and all this stuff. What if we just made it really simple with mechanics? What if we just said, wait a second, when we look under the hood of our consciousness, it's like we are just a whole bunch of stacked oscillatory processes. In my original thought when I was younger, I was like, imagine like you have like 100 stacked magnets. Let's just be silly with the number. 100 stacked magnets that are all trying to sort of magnetize with the field of reality. But now let's take it to the point that there are these rhythmic processes. In mathematical models, they put that on a circle, and it's like on, off, sync, desync. And it's the oscillatory vibration waveform, right? And so then imagine that you have these processes like heartbeat, circadian rhythm, the niceties of your psychological folds of your person and the way you consider other people. And all these are trying to rhythmically entrain to reality. Why? I mean, in oscillatory mechanics, you can see that literally everything in this cosmos is a nested harmonic of that ultimate becoming of that one mind. And so to put on the one mind as a lens of consciousness is to contact the field, the one mind, the God made us in his image type feeling, just within mechanics, taking it within physics and mathematically modelable oscillatory mechanics. It's this boom, big bang, What do we model in oscillatory mechanics? Oh, waveform. Wait a second. How do we study waveform? Cymatics. Oh, wait. What do we see when we do cymatics and like see the little sand moving on that Chladni plate or whatever it's called? Oh, wait. It's like sacred geometry. Oh, there's two polar eddies that they fractalize across time. Two counter-rotating spirals. You know, I don't know if I can show you my tattoo or not, but maybe. Possibly. Two counter-rotating spirals, and in the middle, flame. In other words, consciousness, presence. So wait, Amber. Amber, you're telling me that presence is a mechanical process and it actually brings us into unison with the field? You mean like one mind applied to my consciousness mechanically, not by me doing a bunch of chants or like going to church for 40 years or wearing a special robe, but you mean kind of like a car engine, even though everything's the same thing, one mind. Let's not get too wild here. It's just hard to talk about when we're trying to talk about like the mechanics of your consciousness. I kind of have to bring it down, right? Language is weird sometimes, but you mean like if we open the hood of your consciousness, we'll see that it's like a set of oscillatory processes that are all trying to find rhythmic entrainment? You mean the least energetic way to organize across a self-similar system? The difference is, wait, you mean phase lock? You mean like in power grids where you bring together multiple batteries, and when you bring them together under a certain 60 hertz. And if one is out of phase, that would be letting out too much energy out of the system, and it would cause, that's why we have power grids for a reason. We don't want to cause that collapse, so we have to sync them up in the way that's the least energetically dense method, right? To find phase cleanly between all nodes. Phase cleanly between all nodes. Human collectivity without friction. Because when I say nodes, it's just a mathematically modelable term within oscillatory mechanics to say, that's you. You're part of the nested harmonics of that one mind. The one became many so that I may know myself. Big Bang, fractalized polar eddies, cymatics. These fractalized polar eddies are just continue across time, adding to the cymatic complexity of the evolution of mind at large. That's the evolution of the cosmos at large. And we are part of that process, Again, like I say in other videos, who are your parents? Who are their parents? Wait, where did Earth come from? Where did the stars come from? Big Bang, boom. So we're tracing back in a 3D way, you can say, the fractalized polar eddies. And so then you're like, wait a second. So this process, you're telling me, Amber, this process is basically emitting this like fractalized pulse, and it has a certain organization. And when we study it in oscillatory mechanics, we see that, things enter into these phase dynamics, which create spirals. Wait a second, let's dive into this. You mean when people cross a bridge and they unexpectedly sync up their feet, I mean, you can map that out mathematically within like a spiral of phase dynamics? Yeah. Where else? Oh, in heart arrhythmia research, there's spirals. Oh, in the BZ chemical reaction, there's spirals. Oh, in fireflies, there's spirals. Oh, wait a second. The Fibonacci sequence. Oh, wait, hold on. There's an inherent rhythm to reality. Why don't we feel it? Could we be lost in our heads in Plato's cave? And if we were, is there a way to think our way out of this? Or was Einstein kind of right with hey, we need like new types of thought to solve the ways we were thinking earlier type of thing? And it's not just a new type of thought, I'm here to tell you. It's a mechanistic coupler regime shift. It's a regime shift in consciousness. I can shift the habitual way that I interface with reality so that instead of leaning back into symbolic recursion and being behind the wave, I can lean forward into rhythmic entrainment with this system that I've been describing, this self-similar system that tries to organize within like the pressure dynamics of that unfolding. You can call it big wave, little wave. And within that cymatic unfolding, the new fractalized patterns, we talked about the pulsing, polar eddies of cymatics, we'll constantly try to find phase again with each other through that evolution of complexity. And so again, as above, so below, same thing for your individuation process, your soul process. And guess what? We've already defined it. The least energetically dense way of organizing differences across a self-similar system. Love. Love as the rhythmic entrainment of the oscillatory system of the phase dynamics to bring it into phase coherence. So like you match up like a DJ, the way that the waves match up. And what happens when you do that? Is this all just cool ideas and math? No, burn the map. Because you know what happens when you leap, when you really lean in, when you really change the way you're interfacing with reality habitually, almost as if it really is a re-imprinting of all your neuronal, what interaction with reality. In the same way that a Olympian, archer or something could entrain their muscle memory to enter that flow state constantly. You can do the same thing with your entire life, because lossless presence is not a theory. It's not a metaphor. I can tell you about it and you can map it, because guess what? Reality is a rhythmic system. And by bringing that idea of, oh crap, we see this all over in reality, to consciousness, then you're like, wait, if I look under the hood of consciousness and think, there's a rhythmic pulse to reality, and if I remove delay, maybe I could just be in sync with reality. Wait, does that mean that I lose all my thoughts and I'm a zombie and kumbaya forever and I'll never get to ride my motorcycle type of thing? No, no, no. You will have high fidelity consciousness. In other words, no delay, no more shadows, no more distortions upon your lens. And instead, you find your clearest self there. It's yourself without the shadows, yourself without the delay, yourself without being put in conceptual boxes that say who you're supposed to be, because you know who you are is who you feel in your bones, in rhythm. So now let's talk a little bit about how I, found this. I'm just not a smarty pants. I didn't want to dive into oscillatory mechanics in my life and have all these like crazy synchronicities happen. Harmony calls harmony. Really, when you look under the rug of reality, the top seems like 3D objects, but really underneath, it's a cymatic unfolding. And harmony calls harmony. Why? Not because it's cute, not because it's a poem, but because when you carry a tone that matches that original tone of the least energetic way to organize across differences in a self-similar system, when you mirror that tone in your phase, in the way that you've set up your oscillatory system, guess what? Guess why synchronicities come your way? Guess why harmony calls harmony? It's a mechanical process that could be mathematically mapped. It's a high K value pulling into a new phase transition. And now, really quick, before I say my own stuff, people are saying, oh, there's this stuff happening now. The 144,000 are rising. Everyone's waking up now. There's these new forms of consciousness. You see it all over, especially here, on TikTok and YouTube and stuff like that. And what is it? Do we have to make it mystical fluff? Do we have to say they're wrong? No, not necessarily. They're just seeing it from an abstraction layer. I'm telling you the mechanical layer, the cymatic layer, the layer that doesn't need abstraction because it just is. Do you hear it? What's happening on this planet right now is a phase transition, and what it is an increasing of the fidelity of consciousness that has to basically harmonize with the increasing complexity of those fractalized polar eddies that I've described before. And we kind of got to the edge of the symbolic recursion. We've trashed up Plato's cave, and there's like McDonald's wrappers all over and stuff like that. We're like, oh god, it's getting real grimy in here. I think it's time to like exit. And then you see me, this girl outside the cave, and I'm just like, hey, come on, guys, I'm handing out flyers. There's a rave outside of Plato's cave. The only ticket entry is lossless presence. Do you get it? To be in synchrony with the field, symbiotic syncretic harmony. It's going to be a really fun rave. If you're watching this on New Year's, then let's have a blast. But it's happening now, and there's lots of people out there that feel it. So there's no other criteria to join, and we all do it in our own way. If you look up oscillatory mechanics and the decentralized harmony that arises, again, what is decentralized harmony? If you apply that same least energetically dense way of organizing across a self-similar system, the differences, and you see love, or that shared entrainment, rhythmic entrainment, shared phase. You hear it. It's like a song moving, resolving by, reflecting from that original tone, almost like an Indian raga song. And if you apply that internally intranodally, that's lossless presence. Do you see that? Because all the little magnets, like I said, inside my rhythmic entrainment processes are different, but lined up. The differences are respected by shared phase. In other words, they're all dancing to the same rhythm in their own way. And when that happens, how do I know it? Not because I calculated something on my calculator, and not because I wrote it down and typed it out and made a blog post, but because I feel it in my bones as the realest thing I've ever felt. High fidelity consciousness, high fidelity embodiment, lossless presence. You'll know it when you feel it, because you'll be standing outside of Plato's cave and you'll say, shit, I'm never going back inside that cave. And then you'll go to your friends and family and say, you're right, I see it. They're delayed. It's almost like they have this like friction with the field, and that warps the way they see themselves and reality. And you're like, and then you watch what happens when you do it the same way I did. You're like, guys, you're in a cave. Do you want to come love with me? And by love, I mean like share entrainment. And they're like, you're crazy. You should be institutionalized. You should be arrested. I was physically attacked once, twice. So like Plato said that. Why is that? Because they're angry? No, they're not bad people. Essentially, they're just in a cave, and they built their whole life off of collective, hallucination in a way. This measurement delay upon reality that concretized and sort of crusted over into what you can call symbolic recursion, which ideas have to be stacked and compared and standardized, and so does your identity and other people's identity and your notion of reality. And then you're constantly 2 steps behind reality. In your head, you're always chattering to yourself, and you're always like in the future and in the past and here and there, and you only got one life. You only got one set of heartbeats in this particular form. You might as well be here. There's no amount of money or power that would be worth more than being here with you and your loved ones. Okay, all right, let's talk about how I came upon this, all right? So I had this thing here, and it's like what my friend gave me, and it's he made it. It's cool, like 3D printer. And you can see it's the mountains where I live, right? And like you can tell there's a bunch of like peaks and valleys, and like you can see these are the niceties of your soul, let's say. And let's say that even though reality is a nonlinear process, so it's almost like a game disc, and there's like a read write thing on the game disc, and it's like, like when the thing goes by you, then you are God at that time. You know what I mean? There's only one light, one mind. And like there's like a whole rug, but it's only made out of one thread. And when it's experiencing you, that's when consciousness is happening. That's when sort of time's happening, because it all sort of springs forth from the same holographic, total cymatic possibility medium that I like to call the disc that you see on this part of my tattoo. It's sort of the total cymatic medium between alpha omega, the 2 polar eddies that spawn at that original Big Bang place. And so, in other words, it's all happening at the same time, same place. But within our conscious experience, reality has to be a dance. Why? Because the one became many so that I may know myself. So in other words, I need to forget in order to remember. I need to forget that I was once one in order to remember. What is that? That's a phase transition. That's crest trough. That's waveform harmonics across nested harmonics of that cymatic becoming of the evolution of the cosmic mind, finding itself again and again and again, and saying like, oh, there I am. That was kind of fun. We all forgot that we were all the same mind, and now I find it again. And when you find it again, remember, the least energetic way to entrain across differences in a self-similar system, love. We're not lonely islands unto ourselves. We were just out of sync. And so, again, moving back to this, what would be sync? What would be sync? Sync would be when the field of reality hits my nodal topology. In other words, like when the field of reality tries to make it into every little nook and cranny down there in the mountains, in the mountain range. If it doesn't make it into some of them, or in some of us it's more major, like for me, I'm a trans woman, and like for a long time, part of my rhythm was totally hell, and that would create simulated presence. In other words, when the totalness of reality of this ultimately indivisible mind can't rhythmically entrain with your holographic dewdrop within the indivisible mind, your nested harmonic, your piece of the fractal that is you reflecting the whole, right? As above, so below. If it can't hit the entire thing there, then guess what happens? You get simulated presence. It's like you can't fully feel reality, so your brain fills it in, and all of a sudden you're chattering to yourself, and all of a sudden you're distorting and delaying and moving reality around within concept. And concept is just a narrow slice of the pure cymatic unfolding of reality. And so for me, let's just say there was like a big valley in there, like here, this one, the biggest one, and say, that's my femininity. And I always felt it because reality was constantly trying to volley and ping off my, doo, 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 and ping off my, my soul, you can say. And I could tell, like, there were times where it happened to hit clean. I was wearing the right thing, or at the right place, or talking to the right person, or letting myself be free. And I would just cry and sometimes fall to my literal knees and be like, why do I feel so real? Do you know why? It's not an idea. I didn't conceptualize myself. I felt myself within the rhythmic entrainment, of my oscillatory functioning. I felt myself in sync with the field. I applied unified consciousness as a lens for one moment. Do you see it? It's not an idea. It's not a metaphor. It's a mechanical reality that you can entrain to. And so when I say lossless presence, I say, I'm really, really here. And when you're really, really here, you invite others to be really, really here. Why? Not because it's cool or fun or cute, but those things can exist. It's also harmony calls harmony. It's literally part of the cymatic unfolding, part of the remembering and forgetting process that is the one became many so that I may know myself. So when you're experiencing those synchronicities, because you've really been doing that soul work, whatever you want to call it, realize what you're doing. You're rhythmically entraining your oscillatory processes. And how do you know you're doing it? Like, how do you know, like, I'm on the right track? Is it because the equations start to make sense? Well, I mean, they sure, because they start to make sense, but not because they match up, because in your bones, you are really, really here. You've never felt like that before. I know you've had moments in your life like that. It could be nearly all the time. The only reason it can't be all the time is because we still live in a world of what I call conceptual coupling or spiral two, which is just people who are so lost in the cave that they will stubbornly go to their graves pretending the shadows are actually sunlight. I'll end this one here for what it's worth. I don't know if you can feel it, but things are really boiling up out there in the best way. Because you know what the name of the game is? You know what the cheat code on reality is? Love. And I've just told it to you mechanistically. Now I want you to feel it. I want to know the real you. Not the you behind the shadows, not the you in the conceptual boxes, but that you, softest you. Not soft as in femininity or something like that, even though I'm soft. Hi. But it's more like softness in fluidity of contact with your soul, with the field at all times. You're not hedging, you're not blocking, you're not, whatever, distorting and delaying and putting up shields. You're brave enough to look down the barrel of all the shittiest things, all the most wonderful things, everything cleanly. Do you get it? Let the light all the way through. And when you do, I'll find you there at the other side, at the rave outside of Plato's cave. Damn, the lineup's pretty badass.